My dad passed away at 63 in a motorcycle accident, and that's when I kind of started, realizing I need to get a game plan and, a future plan for my wife and me. And so Tijuana was an option since he's from Tijuana. So we basically started acquiring some land or, start building.
Hey, Gen Max, you just met Dale. I'm here in Tijuana at his home, which is a very beautiful home. He's going to tell you about his home, and the property that it's on is also very interesting. And he's going to talk a little bit about having a business up in the United States that's he's still kind of running along. It's a family business, and living here near the U.S. border on the Mexican side. So let's start with a little bit of background history with Dale.
Yeah, I married my wife, who's from Tijuana, in 2007, and we planned to try and have a family, which we did. We have one son, and at the time we started a small business together. We do environmental testing in San Jose, but we wanted to secure we didn't own a home at that time, so we thought about, after my dad died, we thought about what are we going to do, and the opportunity came up to build a house in my wife's family's property, and so we began to start that process. And as we were doing that, my wife stayed down here in Tijuana, I stayed in San Jose, and I came back weekly, back and forth we paid cash for the construction, so basically, I stayed in San Jose in the Bay Area, continued running my environmental company, and I would come back mostly on Fridays and Saturdays, come pay for the construction, say hi to the wife and son, and buy building materials when needed, and then head back to the Bay Area to work during the week.
So yeah, this is interesting. This is very common in Mexican families to live with your parents, typically living in the same house if you're unmarried, and possibly living on the same property. And here we're in Tijuana. I've seen this in El Centenario, where I live, where the lots are really big and there's multiple generations living on the same property. But this is Tijuana. This is a city, so we're kind of here on a small lot. But let's have Dale tell us about kind of the building that we're in here.
Yeah, the building here was original to the 60s. My wife's family came from Jalisco, Mexico, Tequila specifically. And her family, of course, grew up in kind of a ranch, and but they all moved. I think there's brothers, sisters, and they moved to Tijuana to start and raise their family. But they built the house, I think, sometime in the early 60s. It's a two-story house. It's gone under several remodelations, if you will, and it's on a pretty good sized lot in a good area. We're close to the Via Rapida, which is the freeway, so we're probably 10 minutes to the U.S.-Mexican border at San Isidro. But the property is a two-story house and with a large laundry room on the backside, and we've built our house above that, so we're basically on the above ground and above the back of their house.
And Dale, your wife was living here on this property, correct?
Yeah, my wife was born and raised here in Tijuana, and she was living at home at the property with her family, her sisters, and her mother. And at the time that I did meet her, so she's born and raised here, and originally from Tijuana. So she was working at a large telephone company in the county department when I met her. Her sisters some of them are still here that live on the property, the older one and some of the mid family members. She does have one brother that has his own property, but most of them live here, and one lives in California, just in San Diego.
So let's talk more specifically about the home that they built here, and then we're going to talk about having business across the border and that kind of connection between Tijuana and the USA.
So we finished the property in 2010, and my wife was able to secure a contractor that she was familiar with. So we built the house out of metal framing, which was good for me. I'm familiar with construction in the United States, so wood frame construction, metal frame construction. This was a starter home for us, for my wife and son to live in while I was living in San Jose and still running my business. But it's basically a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house with a pretty decent sized balcony. that we use for dining outside. We've got a small kitchen, a little laundry room, and living room. So living room kitchen combo. So basically we have everything we need here. We did add on and made a larger garage out front of the building. The house is doing good. We've got air conditioning. So we got three of those. So it does have air conditioning, modern appliances. So I'm pretty happy with the construction of the home.
Yeah, this is a very cool home, the way it's designed here with the shades and the glass railing. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a combination of a more typical American, like high style design, and more traditional Mexican. And the fact that the family lives next door is great because Dale's wife popped in here, and I think she went next door to hang out with her family so as not to be in the back of the interview. So it seems like a super convenient lifestyle. But let's talk about that convenience of being on the border or 10 minutes from the border and what it's like kind of being in Tijuana.
Living on both sides of the border while I'm running the business has worked for me. I'm able to work from my house. I've got good Wi-Fi here, good telephone connection. My phone works good, and I'm able to use the Wi-Fi on the phone for calling. So basically, dealing with the border, I've learned over these years that of going back and forth, when is a good time to cross and when it's not. So since, I run my own business, I have a lot of flexibility on the times of day that I leave and when I come back. And so it could depend on, what day that I do decide to leave. Fridays is a lot of traffic, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. So usually those days, if I'm down here and I'm going to head back to work, I'll plan my schedule up there and I'll leave here accordingly. So it may be leaving here at midnight and drive halfway, just past Los Angeles, then get up and drive the rest of the way to the Bay Area. And same thing coming from the Bay Area back to Tijuana. So I would plan that accordingly based on, my schedule and what I had going on with construction here at the house. But it worked out pretty good. Most of the time I, was able to keep my traffic down to an either an hour or two crossing from Tijuana back into the United States. And same thing, going back from the Bay Area or San Diego back into Tijuana, I was able to keep, control of my schedule.
Yeah, that seems to be a theme here in Tijuana when it comes that the border is pretty predictable, I guess, in terms of, I saw people posting holiday weekends, things like that. The amount of people crossing is pretty predictable based on a number of factors. Holidays in the U.S., holidays in Mexico, weekends versus weekdays. I'm filming this on a Wednesday, and my next step from here is to go across the border on foot. And one thing I will be doing is going into the Sentry Lane, the on-foot Sentry Lane. So I'm wondering, Dale, do you have a Sentry Pass?
So you can get what's called a Sentry Lane, and that is it's an expedited lane. It's certainly a lot quicker, but because I have flexibility in my schedule, I just choose to drive in we call it the ready lane, which it's kind of expedited compared to the standard lane. So there's a standard lane on the left side when you're heading out. There's the middle is ready lane, and then of course the Sentry is a more quicker lane. It's for people that are vetted and want to pay the additional fees. But I found for me that, since I have flexibility again, I can pretty much set my schedule accordingly and, keep my traffic time to a minimum. And then also when I'm in the car, I'm doing paperwork and making phone calls because there's a lot of stop and go. So, and plus you can eat in the border. There's pretty much, you can, use the restroom if you have to, pull over the side of the road. So there's a lot of options for food and coffee and, keep yourself busy.
And for those of you who have never crossed the U.S.-Mexico border in San Ysidro here in Tijuana, it is an experience to go through the regular lane. Let me talk about that a little bit. Like we came up, if you have, I think it's the ready lane is if you have like the right type of passport in terms of it's enabled with a chip or something like that. So if it's an electronic, you're able to use the ready lane because essentially your documents are ready for reading and you can just they get you through quicker. As Dale mentioned, the Sentry Lane is you go through a vetting process first and you get a special card. That is usually the quickest lane. The regular lanes we've been stuck in for 4 hours before on a weekend, and it's really, really entertaining. The amount of things that go on. People are selling everything you can think of, any kind of food, any kind, I mean, puppies, trinkets, anything, bathrooms, whatever it is you need, you can find it in those lanes. There's like a whole market going on as people are crossing the border. So it's actually, it's one of the more fun things to do. Do it once, give it a try. Also, the reason we had to do that, though, is because one person in our car did not have the right documents to go through Sentry. So there were 4 of us in the car, and we're like, oh, well, we have to go through regular lane because one person didn't have the right documents. So I have since learned the trick there is you drop that person off as a pedestrian, you go through the ready lane, and they go through the pedestrian side of things, which is usually quicker. Of course, there's the CBP, Customs and Border Patrol app that you can use. I was looking at it earlier today to see, what do the times look like. So you have, it's great information out there you can use, especially for going north. Going south is a little bit different, and it's gotten a little bit trickier to go south. I think there's, it used to be easier, but now it's a little bit trickier in terms of they're going to check you. Before, it used to be just drive on right in. So let's talk a little bit more about the benefits of being in a border town. So if you're considering a move to Mexico, let's talk the benefits of living up here versus living somewhere down, like I'm 2 days drive from the border.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to living, for instance, me living here in Tijuana and being so close to the United States. Living in this border town has worked really good for me. I can access both sides of the United States, Mexico, relatively easy, depending on traffic. My wife's a U.S. citizen, Mexican and U.S. citizen, I should say, and I'm a permanent resident of Mexico. And my son is also a dual Mexican-American citizen. And but living here on both sides of the border is really convenient for us. We've got family on both sides of the border. We can easily access things that we can't get in Mexico. We can easily get to the United States and find products that we like or services. But I would say if you're considering moving down to a place like Tijuana, it's a great location. Cost of living still reasonably cheap here, especially for the rental market. We've got great infrastructure. We're on a construction boom. We've got Costco, we've got Home Depot, IHOP. So there's a lot of things that may be familiar to American citizens that you can find here. And it's a beautiful country. The weather's really good. It's comparable to San Diego, depending on if you're close to the closer to the ocean or inland, which we are inland right now. But the weather's great, so it's a definitely a great option.
And just because Tijuana is like the murder capital of I don't know, the world or something like that, it is statistically very unsafe here. And so I want to hear Dale's perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been coming to Tijuana since I'm 17. And I think, coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, I think any large city, you need to be cautious and, be street smart, pay attention to your surroundings. But in all my time, I honestly haven't had any issues here, and I don't feel unsafe. I actually feel really safe here in Tijuana. We're in a busy location. We got a lot of services close to us, restaurants, stores, and it's the populations here is really growing. It's on par, if not bigger, overall population than San Diego area. But I feel safe. I've never personally had any issues here as far as feeling unsafe.
So I'm going to take us back to where we started before we wrap up the video, and that is talking about his dad in the motorcycle accident and what changed in his mind that got him to make the change in his life.
So I think really what sparked the change in me is I wanted security. And as I mentioned earlier, California is really expensive. My wife's from here, so she was familiar with the area. So I knew what would be a good place to build on our mom's property. It actually worked out good for us, so we were able to utilize that. But the cost of construction was a lot reasonable when we built this in 2010. It's still reasonable when you compare it to the United States, and especially California. So that was really a main motivating factor, is that I can build a house here, pay cash for it, and own it, and not to have to carry a mortgage. So as we age, our bills and debt will, diminish. So that's been my primary factor. My father and mother bought their first house when he was probably 60 years old. They bought it in Utah, originally from California. And so they were very proud of that, to be able to get my mom his first house. They could, California was a lot more expensive. So they had family in Utah, decided to build there. And then unfortunately when he was around 63, he got into a motorcycle accident. And so my mom was kind of left with a house with a mortgage. And basically she went down to a one income family. So it was a little tough. So, to be able to get by and to pay that mortgage, being from at that point, a one income family. And so that kind of really motivated me to try and, secure my future for my wife, be able to stay debt free, and secure my future for my son.
So hopefully someone doesn't need to die in your life for you to kind of make that realization that there's more to life than whatever's going on in the United States right now. And to live your dream, to, as Dale said, to secure your future for your family. That's another big one I hadn't really thought about. With spouses, it is a little bit tricky. So I think, like Kat said, yeah, Mexico's a little bit hard to live in. I'll do a video with Kat about what that means. But some people like to move back to the United States after they lose a spouse. But it is important to kind of like start to plan for, after you're gone. And Mexico might be a really great way, a really great option for that. And on the way to the point at which you're gone, Mexico is a really fun place, very affordable place where you can really live your life. And so that's why I bring you these videos from people who are living amazing lives south of the border. And so I've got more videos like that. Here's a few over here, and others from Tijuana, if they're ready, up here. Hasta luego.